This is important. Smiles are contagious. They release endorphins. It's all of the good things and to help with the muscles in your face. All of the things. We should smile even if we force ourselves into it. Maybe not. I don't know. Let me talk to a professional. Maybe should we force ourselves to smile even if we're not feeling it? And what does that even mean? Let me welcome to the show. She is a licensed psychologist from my neck of the woods. So if you're in Jersey, you can go check her out. She's earned her master's, of course, at Columbia Teachers College, and she's got a PhD from Seton Hall. And she did her internship at my mama's school, UMDNJ, which is now the Robert Wood Johnson Medical Center, or whatever it's called now, school.
Rutgers.
Rutgers. Let me welcome Dr. Natasha Manning-Gibbs to the Karen Hunter Show. Hi.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Listen, first of all, you're welcome. And I'm grateful because I feel like, we don't know enough people in this space and we have a lot of needs. Mm-hmm. And finding the right therapist, finding the right psychiatrist, psychologist is I think as important as finding the right gynecologist or prostate doctor. Like we need to have people in our lives that go to, but for so long it's been such a stigma, and now that it's not, we don't even know where to go. So for you, before we get into how we get happy and stuff, am I wrong for saying we should force ourselves to smile?
No, I think that's absolutely fine. And actually forcing yourself to smile can trick your brain into releasing the hormones that can actually help you to feel better. So it's absolutely okay to trick yourself into, feeling better by smiling. Yeah.
I was reading, I've been on a spiritual journey for a long time, and I was part of a church, and I had like a disciple partner and stuff. And I was like, I don't feel like it. And they were like, act your way to good feelings. You can act your way to good feelings. I was like, bump that. I'm not feeling it. But there is something to be said for, like you said, tricking the brain, because the brain is a powerful computer. And I feel like we don't have enough of a relationship with our own brains, minds, and spirits to actually live the kind of lives that we say we want.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. I always share with my clients, if they're coming in to see me and they're dealing with a severe bout of depression in particular, the first thing that I target is their behaviors. Because what we know through the research is that there's something called behavioral activation, that oftentimes you got to get somebody activated. You can't just talk to them. You got to get their bodies in motion. So, going back to the tricking yourself into smiling, sometimes what we trick ourselves into doing actually, again, triggers the hormones that help us to feel better. So we definitely want to lean into behaviors that can help us to, get our minds right, get our mood in check. Absolutely.
I love that. Okay. Dr. Natasha Manning-Gibbs, why did you pick psychology? Because there's always a story behind that. That's not something that people just get into.
It's so true. It's not something that everybody gets into. And my story is that I grew up not knowing what I wanted to do. I always tell people that. Because I used to be the type of kid that was fascinated by my peers that would say with confidence, oh, I want to be a vet. I want to be this. I want to be that. I had no idea what I wanted to be until I found myself pregnant junior year of high school.
Wait, what? Pause. Are you okay? All right. Pause, y'all. Dr. Natasha. So you were Natasha Manning in high school.
In high school, I was a teenage mom. And that experience was actually a blessing for me because it was the first time in my life I experienced what judgment felt like. And so from that experience, I just said to myself, I'm going to make it into college, which I did. People counted me out and said I wouldn't graduate from high school. I want to, successfully graduate from high school, obviously, and going off to college. And my first year, I was undecided, but I reflected on my experience as being a teenage mom. And I knew I wanted to go into a field that can help people, especially people that are counted out in the way that I was.
Take us back. So you're 16, you find out you're pregnant.
17.
17. Okay. So you're in Jersey. Are you in Jersey at this time? You're from Jersey.
Yes.
Okay. Essex County?
Essex County, yes.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to pin down the school that you're in.
St. Vincent's Academy, by the way, in Newark, New Jersey.
Wow, St. Vincent. So you're a Catholic school girl. This ain't supposed to happen, Dr. Natasha. You're supposed to be doing this. All right. So how did you tell your parents?
Oh my goodness. Oh, you taking me back, Karen.
I have to. I need to know.
I didn't tell my parents directly. It was my son's mother, who actually contacted my mom, right? So we were two scared teenagers, didn't know what to do. He confided in his mom, and his mother told my mother. So that's how it came out.
Wow. Okay.
Mhm.
So then your mother's like, so Natasha, you have something to tell me?
Absolutely. But see, here's the thing about my mom. My mom is a pastor, and she's always been a praying mom. So her spirit had already told her something was going on with her daughter. And so when she got the phone call, it was just confirmation, basically, what her spirit was telling her.
And what was the cause to action, and what was the path set up? Because for you to go finish college and go through all of that, there had to be a lot of support in your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I credit my family, my support system, even the school I attended. You know, it could have been easy for them to kick me out. You know, there are many teenage girls that don't finish high school because schools immediately just kick them out. And for me, I was rallied around. People knew my potential and knew that if they continue to provide me with support, then I would go on to, reach my goals. And that's exactly what happened.
So going to school with a baby. So you got to stay home, I'm imagining. You got to, was your mother there to help, or did she go like, oh, you grown enough to have a child, you got to go out there? Oh, she did that. Okay.
That was my mom for sure.
Okay.
Here's the thing. They helped out when things got tough, but I was the one waking up in the middle of the night, preparing the bottles and still making my way to school the next day. Absolutely.
So from a psychological standpoint, because I often say this, we're all born with fingerprints. What works for one is not going to work for the other. And I feel like we have these kind of like one size fits all parenting ways, although every child needs something different, because this is the way I was raised. So this is how I'm going to. So if for you, your mom knew you well enough, this was motivating. What do you suggest for people who are listening right now who have like children that are that might need to stay home? Is there a solution for people who might is that tough love? Is that tough love good across the board? Because I feel like that might be tough love.
I think that would be. And if I understand the question correctly,
no, I'm not articulating it.
No,
so let me just say what I said. Let me say what I want to. So and I'm trying to be delicate, right? Because I feel like tough love should work across the board, because we shouldn't give people crutches. At the same time, I recognize that I might not be evolved enough to know that some people need crutches, and that the world is so cruel right now that we just throw people out. The fact that they're folk that are unhoused and we could walk by them. I mean, a lot of people, especially if you live in San Francisco, you know what I'm talking about. There's something broken in our society where we don't have enough space for people to come back into the fold.
Yeah.
So while it worked for you, it may not work for every child to be sent out because you did something.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right about that. But here's the thing. Everybody needs a helping hand. And, as the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. So I wouldn't ever encourage a parent to, especially if they know their child would struggle with taking on such a responsibility on their own, I wouldn't leave them out to dry. I would provide them with the support that they would really need, because that's challenging to not only be a teenager, but to then also be a mom. That child would need all the help that they can get. So my encouragement is to really rally around the child, around the teenage mother in particular, not, coddle them. You really want them to be the parent, like my mom, didn't coddle me, but you want to provide that helping hand, because even grown women who are moms, they need help. It's not an easy responsibility.
What was the most challenging thing for you? Because you got through it, but I'm sure you had your challenges. What was the most challenging thing for you to overcome? And looking back on it, how did it shape and change who you became?
So being a teenage mom is the most challenging thing I've ever gone through. But like I said, it shaped who I am as far as being a person that easily empathize and sympathize with people. because again, that chapter in my life, like I knew how it felt to feel judged. I'm a teenage mom on a corner of Broad and Market in Newark, visibly pregnant and people looking at me and staring at me and judging me, clearly judging me. And so I know again what that feeling feels like. And I know that if I didn't have the support system that I just, share with you, my parents, my family overall, my school, I know the path that I could have head down if I didn't have the love and support and prayer from, my family overall.
Dr. Natasha Manning-Gibbs is here. I brought her on because she's got some amazing advice, and you can follow her at Dr. Manning-Gibbs on TikTok, I think, and you can go to her website, drdrmanninggibbs.com. Some coping skills. Walk us through. You have 5 self-care, five things people can do to help themselves.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Before I get into the why, the coping skills, I want to talk about the why you should plug into these things. I came across an alarming statistic a few weeks ago. 76% of Americans are reporting that they've experienced a physical or medical condition because of stress. 76%.
76. Okay.
76%, right? And so I want people to first and foremost know that if you're feeling stressed, you are not alone. Again, most Americans are reporting that they're feeling stressed. And it's important that we address stress because it's breaking down our bodies. Another statistic is that 43% of people between the ages of 13 and 64 have reported lying awake at night, right, because of stress. So it's affecting our sleep. There's other research that's talking about how it's affecting our hearts. We carry tension in our body when we're super stressed. So it's important that we tap into what I'm about to share with you, because if we don't, it'll break down our bodies, right?
So can you define stress? What is stress? How do we know? Because I've been a stress denier for my entire life. Like, I'm not stressed. I'm a carrier. That's what I say. I don't get headaches. I give them. It's just the lie I tell myself. What is stress?
Yeah, stress is an external circumstance that, triggers distress in us, right? So, for example, if you're going to work and you hit a traffic jam, all of a sudden, you're going to be late. That's an external circumstance that triggers stress. So stress is around us at all times. The degrees of it is different for everybody. Sometimes we're dealing with a low level of stress. Other times we're dealing with a high level of stress. But yeah, it's usually an external circumstance that's triggering this discomfort in us.
Is there a physical manifestation? Like, how do we know for sure we're stressed? Is there something that happens chemically in our body where we're like, oh, okay, there's a red flag?
Absolutely. So I'll talk about what's happening biologically in a second, but just some indicators of stress. And I've been hearing this, especially for the past 3 years since the beginning of the pandemic. People have been irritable. Even when I get on the road, people are driving really, erratically, it's just because people are wound up and just angry and upset and uptight. So that's one, sign or symptom of stress. Some other signs, more physical, is just feeling tension in your body. I know for me, I always share that I carry my tension in my shoulders. So when I feel them creeping up, it's like, uh-oh, I'm stressed. Let me relax as best as I can. For other people, sometimes it's stomach issues. So there is really a long list of symptoms and signs of stress, but some of the common ones are a change in your feelings, your emotions, and then some other physical markers are signs and symptoms of stress as well.
Okay, so tell us how we can manage it.
So I want people to think about themselves, and I'm here picking up my cell phone. I want you to imagine yourself being a cell phone. Again, on a daily basis, we have things that deplete us. And here's the thing, Karen, my phone is at half right now, and I'm itching to plug it up, right? And so I want people to have the same mindset when it comes to taking care of themselves and decreasing their stress. On a daily basis, we're being depleted, just like our cell phone. But what I'm seeing in my practice is that people are not plugging into things that can help to recharge them, to help to rejuvenate them. So again, you get on the road, you're in traffic, deplete. You go to work, you're dealing with the boss that's passive aggressive, or you're seen as the angry Black woman, you're dealing with microaggressions, deplete. You turn on the television and you see that police brutality is unfortunately alive and well still, deplete. So some of the things that I want people to think about doing are things that you can plug into at the end of the day. It's not about waiting around for your next vacation to feel rejuvenated and feel alive. It's about doing things on a daily basis. So for example, when you get home from work, putting on a good playlist, right? For me, I'm really into skincare. And so it's like putting on a sheet mask at the end of the day if you had a challenging day. Calling a friend, plugging into your support network. So it's important that we just don't go home every day after a rough day and just think we're going to sleep it off. Oftentimes I work with clients that feel like, I just have a glass of wine and go to bed. That's not good enough based on the level of stress that we're experiencing right now. We really need to be intentional about plugging into these little things that help to counteract the effects of stress.
Okay. Give us something else.
So one of the things that I love tapping into is my breath, right? So going into some of what happens chemically to us when we're stressed is that we have a bunch of cortisol pumping through our veins. And cortisol is just the stress hormone. And it's activated when the feeling part of our brain, the amygdala, is turned on. When we turn that switch on in the amygdala, what it does is that it gets another part of the brain to start pumping out, again, cortisol. But what we know about cortisol being pumped through our bodies when we really don't need it, right? We need it at times, but when we don't need it, it's breaking down our bodies. So it's important that we take deep cleansing breaths because we know through the research that taking a deep cleansing breath slows down the amygdala. It literally slows down the part of the brain that keeps you in your feelings. So to get out of your feelings, basically, you want to take a deep cleansing breath. And I always encourage people to tap into it. Yes, do it right now because it's so easy to do. I'm pretty sure some people are listening to this right now. They're driving. At the next red light, take a deep cleansing breath. And there are different types of deep breaths you can take. I practice one called 4-7-8 breathing, and it's backed by research and science that shows how effective it is. So basically you inhale for a count of 4, you try your best to hold for a count of 7. It's hard when you initially start practicing this. And then you exhale through your mouth for a count of 8. Very effective type of breathing to help reset the brain.
Give us one more. Dr. Manning-Gibbs is in the building, and I would love for you to come back. As I mentioned before, I love talking with mental health professionals because I feel like we don't know enough. Now we know a whole lot. Hi. Yes.
Yeah, it'd be my pleasure to come back. So another one would be something that I heard you've been tapping into. Get outside and go for a walk. Get some fresh air. What we know through research is that getting our bodies in motion, getting that heart rate up can help ward off stress, right? So you don't have to go to the gym, every day and do Olympic level training. It can be the little things. It can be going for a walk, going for a jog, but get your body in motion in some way, shape, or form, because the research is not lying. When you put exercise up against psychotropic medication, like an antidepressant, exercise does well. It goes toe to toe with medication. Mm-hmm.
I am reading a book called Inflamed that I can't get enough of. Like that's my morning jam. So I get up, I go out. And this morning it was talking about the connection to the earth and how for many of us raised in cities, this is the first generation, I think, where more of us are in urban environments than rural environments. It is impacting our health. And part of being out, it's the noise. It's the lack of oxygen from trees. And so, even if we have to go to a park and walk around, at a nice pace, the connection to the earth also helps with our mental. I was listening to that this morning. I was like, oh, that's why I'm out here feeling good and smiling.
Absolutely. And you also are getting that free vitamin D, at least when the sun is out. I know the sun is not out all the time.
No, it was out this morning. Matter of fact, I changed my path because I was like, oh, the sun is right there. I just put my face up to it.
Absolutely.
And just, yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Free vitamin D, and here's the thing. We saw how important that was in the beginning of the pandemic. We were locked in our houses. in front of these screens and not getting fresh air. But when I was encouraging my clients and also doing this work myself, getting out the house, not just staying cooped up and looking at a screen, it was rejuvenating. So here's the thing, it's the small things that we sometimes can plug into that can help to recharge us, reset us.
Early part of the pandemic, before I got my knees replaced, I rode my bike because nobody was out there. My biggest fear, I think about Sean Bradley being hit by a car on his bike. You go out and people don't drive well anymore. But during the pandemic, there was nobody out there. Natasha, I was riding my bike like I was 7. It was beautiful. Now the people back out on the streets. So I was like,
so now you got to be careful.
I got to regroup. Yeah. No, but in community, how important is community? Because I was listening to this morning, they were saying language coming together, community, having a common bond with other human beings, even virtually, having a place that you can land with somebody else is so important. How important is that psychologically?
Vitally important. And again, going back to the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of people were dealing with depression, stress, anxiety, because they felt like, oh, I'm used to going out and seeing people in person. And because of the pandemic, obviously we couldn't do that. So it was about finding a way to stay socially connected. And so one of the things that we know about depression and anxiety in particular is that, especially when it's high, you're dealing with a severe bout of depression, I should say, people want to withdraw and isolate, not healthy at all. So whenever I see somebody, come into me and have that behavior in particular in place, we target it head on. It's like, hey, let's put that on your schedule to meet up with your friends this weekend, because we know, again, the research behind it, staying socially connected helps us to feel better. We need it.
Yes.
That's the way we're hardwired.
Let's take a call. Dr. Natasha will be back. Dr. Natasha Manning-Gibbs. You can go to Dr. Manning-Gibbs, GIBBS.com and check out her website.